Hello and welcome to the Community Service Organisation Victoria Child Safe Standards Board of Directors Training. My name is Nihal, Samara. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director here at Kaizen Synergy Law Firm, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. These slides have been taken from the department and form the templates taken from Protect as well too, which we have used, and we acknowledge the work that the department has done in relation to these presentation slides. We have added information to these slides specifically around the legal compliance obligations, but rather than reinvent the wheel, so to speak, we are leveraging off existing works that agencies have done as well too. So let's have a look at the Board of Director Training, specifically focused on the Victorian Child Safe Standards. As always, we'd like to pay our respects to the elders past and present upon the lands on which we all meet. While this session is being run by webinar and recorded, we do pay our respects to the traditional owners accordingly. If there is specific support that is required, then we do ask you to speak to your agency's leadership team. Of course, you can reach out directly to our law firm on 1300 360 360, email us at support@gemba360.com, or you can visit our website and get support directly at gemba360.com. There is also other supports that are also available, which you have also seen on the previous slide. In this presentation, we're going to be looking at three specific areas, these being overview of the child safe standards. We're going to look at overview of each child safe agency standard and the role of the agency's board of directors. And we're also going to cover off specific child safety policies and procedures that your agency also has as well too. Each of these has specific areas of compliance obligations that we are going to cover off specifically, as you can see here, and we will be conducting reviews of each of these over the next 12 months as well too. So let's have a look at the overview of the child safe standards. Well, essentially, let's start with the definition. Child safety includes matters related to protecting all children from child abuse, managing the risk of child abuse, providing support to a child at risk of child abuse, and responding to suspicions, incidents, disclosures, or allegations of child abuse as well. Child abuse is defined as any act committed against a child involving a sexual offence or grooming. It can also be infliction on a child of physical violence or serious emotional or psychological harm, and also serious neglect of a child as well. Now, there is quite a history of child safe standards, and these actually go back to 2012, where there was the betrayal of trust inquiry. This led also in 2013 to the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Abuse. In 2016, there was the original Child Safe Standards implemented in Victoria. In 2019, Victoria agreed to adopt the National Principle for Child Safe Organisations. And in 1 July, Victoria adopted the new Child Safe Standards aligned with the national principles. And where we are now is from 2022, the new Child Safe Standards commenced. So what does this actually mean, and why are the Child Safe Standards so important? Well, the Child Safe Standards recognise that all children are vulnerable. The Child Safe Standards require agencies like this one to take steps to prevent child abuse and build a culture of child safety. Agencies cannot simply assume that child abuse does not and cannot happen within their agency or agency community as well too. And that is actually important to be aware of, making sure that you don't have those residing assumptions. So the Child Safe Standards aim to promote the safety of children, prevent child abuse, ensure effective processes are in place to respond to and report on all allegations of child abuse. And the Child Safe Standards really work by driving changes in culture, providing a minimum standard of child safety and highlighting that everyone has a role in keeping children safe from abuse. Now, what's the difference? Well, on the 1st of July 2022, new Child Safe Standards were introduced. New requirements to keep children and students safe, and this included actually extending these out into education facilities as well too. So the involvement of families and children to ensure safety efforts are made. Agencies focus also on Aboriginal children as well too. Better management of risk of child abuse in online environments, and governance systems and processes to ensure that children are kept safe as well too. And essentially there were ministerial orders and child safe standards action lists which have been developed to support agencies and comply with the ministerial orders. So there are in fact a number of child safe standards, and we are going to cover each of these off in this presentation. In total, there are 11 standards, and these are summarized on this slide here. So let's have a look at the overview of each child safe standard and the role of this agency's board of directors. What is the role of the agency's board of directors? Well, government standards outline government agencies' power, duties, and functions, but this is not only to do with government agencies, but also agencies that are also providing child services as well too. When performing these powers, duties, and functions, agencies' board of directors must comply with the child safe standards and ministerial orders. The following slides support you to understand the various roles and responsibilities for implementing the child safe standards within your agency. Child safe standards for action for agency board of directors. Well, Child Safe Standard 2 provides that child safety and well-being is embedded within the leadership, governance, and culture. It also seeks to prove that the Child Safety Code of Conduct as well too is applied by your agency. And also Child Safe Standard 6 is designed to ensure suitable staff and volunteers are aware of the policies and practices, followed by also appropriate record keeping as well too. Child Safe Standard 8 covers the child safe knowledge, skills and awareness, and this is actually to ensure that at least annually the agency's board of directors receives appropriate guidance and training about individual collective obligations and responsibilities for implementing the child safe standards and managing the risk, and that there is child safety and wellbeing risks in the agency environment and how these are actually managed, and the child safety policies and procedures and practices of the agencies are reviewed and also implemented across the agency personnel. This also includes staffing and volunteers. Child Safe Standard 9 is designed to ensure that child safety in physical and online environments is also managed. So this ensures procurement policies for facilities and services from third parties are there to ensure the safety of children as well. And if you run an education service as well too, it should also cover the students as well. The agency board of directors, where applicable to their powers and functions, ensure that procurement policies and facilities and services from third parties ensure the safety of children. So going through each of the standards, essentially, under Child Safe Standard 1, it is to ensure cultural safe environments. In this case, agencies must establish a cultural safe environment in which the diverse and unique identities and experiences of Aboriginal children, young people, and if you provide them to students, are respected and valued. Child Safe Standard 2 covers child safety and well-being is embedded in the leadership, governance and culture. And in this standard, agencies must ensure that child safety and well-being is embedded in each of the agency's leadership, governance and culture, and how you actually go about doing this is listed in this slide here. And this looks at establishing a culture where child abuse and harm is not tolerated, and effective systems and processes to implement child safe policies and practices and manage child abuse risks are effectively monitored as well too. You will find that incident reporting is also managed through your Gemba 360 dashboard, and this covers risk registers across the organisation and also individual incident reporting as well too. There's also the role of child safety to ensure that the role of government agencies and boards, and this includes where you are funded under a funding and services agreement, that you have appropriate controls and policy documents in place. Child Safe Standard 3 covers children and student empowerment as well too. So agencies must ensure that children, young people and students are empowered about their rights, participate in decisions affecting them and are taken seriously. And there are steps that agencies do need to follow in terms of meeting these requirements. Child Safe Standard 4 covers family engagement, and agencies must ensure that families and communities are informed and involved in promoting child safety and well-being. This essentially involves families and communities in decisions relating to their children's safety and well-being right across the spectrum of all the different services that you provide within your agency. Child Safe Standard 5 covers diversity and equity. And agencies must ensure that equity is upheld and diverse needs are respected in both policy and also practice. And agencies need to create environments where all children and young people feel welcome. This also seeks to include that negative experiences like exclusion and discrimination that can be harmful are action. They increase the risk of child abuse and decrease the likelihood of a child telling someone and receiving an effective response. Child Safe Standard 6 covers suitable staff and volunteers, and in this case, agencies must ensure that people working with children and young people are suitable and supported to reflect child safety, well-being, and values. And how you go about doing this is to ensure good recruitment practices, create a safe workplace, reduce the opportunity for harm to occur, prevent, screen out, or deter people who are unsuitable to work or volunteer with children, and recruit staff who uphold the agency values. This also means that under Child Safe Standard 6 for government-funded agencies, board of directors, employees, and personnel are to ensure that Department of Education, for example, or even Department of Health recruitment policies and practices are followed where appropriate. Child Safe Standard 7 is all about the complaints process, and agencies must ensure that processes for complaints and concerns are child-focused. Making a complaint is and can be challenging. Complaints are more likely to be raised when there are clear, well-communicated policies and procedures for concerns and allegations as well too. And the board must be across ensuring that any complaints or concerns that are child-focused are effectively managed as well. Child Safe Standard 8 covers child safety knowledge and skills awareness. And it's important that agencies must ensure that their staff volunteers are equipped with the knowledge, skills and awareness to keep children and young people safe through ongoing education and training. And this includes attending such as these webinars and the likes to ensure that there are regular training is actually provided to all staff personnel. It's also important that government-funded agency board of directors undertake appropriate child safety training at least annually, including guidance on individual and collective obligations and responsibilities for implementing the child safe standards and managing the risk of child abuse. This also includes covering off child safety policies, procedures and practices, and information sharing and reporting obligations and record-keeping obligations are also met. Under Child Safe Standards 9, child safety in physical and online environments is designed to ensure that there is proper risk analysis in the first thing agencies should do to promote child safety. Effective risk analysis will consider all of the child safe standards and risk in a physical environment and also procurement as well too. And again, agencies do need to look at their procurement policies to ensure that they are child safe as well. Child Safe Standard 10 talks about review of a child safety practices, and in this case, agencies must ensure that implementation of the child safe standards is regularly reviewed and improved. And this being a child safe organisation requires ongoing effort. So this does include reviewing policies, procedures and practices, and also looking at your agency's culture as well, and ensuring that all of your personnel are across the policies and procedures and practices of what your agency's culture is. Child Safe Standard 11 covers the implementation of child safe practices. And agencies must have policies and procedures that document how agencies are safe for children and young people, and if you do, deliver services to students as well. And also this ensures that policies and procedures are championed by appropriate leaders. So there are possible consequences of not complying with the child safe standards, and this obviously includes greater risk of child abuse to children and young persons. There is an unsafe agency culture. There's non-compliance identified during an agency review. Regulators can also step in, like ASIC and ACNC and ORIC, if you are registered as under the ORIC legislation as well. And this usually covers Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander corporations. You could also be investigated by the Commission for Children and Young People as well too. There's also considered a breach of duty of care to directors and officers of your company, and organisational duty of care, which could increase your exposure to liability as well. There could be a failure to report and failure to stop offences. There could also be consequential legal action, such as negligence claims as well. And obviously a loss of reputation for children, for keeping children safe. There are a series of child safety policies and procedures that your agency also has, and these are structured in a way that ensure that you take into account the relevant departments' policy and advisory library information. This does include ensuring that you have a child safety and wellbeing policy, child safety code of conduct, child safety risk register, as well as a child safety responding and reporting obligations policy and procedure. Now, the child safety register, we will show you and show you where to actually find this information. But essentially, covering off the child safety and wellbeing policy is that it is there to demonstrate your commitment to providing environments where both students and children are safe and feel safe. Tells the community about strategies and governance arrangements to keep children safe, and helps everyone create a shared commitment to keeping children safe. It is important to note that it is everyone's responsibility within the agency to know their responsibilities for keeping children safe. And this document can also be made available on your website as well. The Child Safety Code of Conduct is also here to provide adults with a clear guide on the behaviour that is expected of them in your agency. And it lists acceptable and unacceptable behaviour. It identifies professional boundaries and ethical behaviour. It applies to all agency activities, including agency camps, using digital technology and social media, and is also publicly available. This is also available to staff, volunteers, contractors, and any other member of our agency community involved in child-connected work, including agency board of directors and members. The Child Safety Risk Register, well, this is managed on the Gemba 360 Risk Register and Incident Reporting Forms. It covers all of the requirements under the Child Safe Standards and also has risk controls. You can find these on the Risk Management section, which covers your incident reports, and you can see the arrows here. The Risk Register also covers off the Child Safe Reporting Standards. And of course, if you have any questions, you'll see that we've got our support desk, Gemba 360 support desk, on the bottom left-hand corner, which we are there to support you if you do have any questions on completing an incident report or adding information into your risk register as well too. The complaints policy as well too for the agency covers a number of key requirements that you can see here on the slide. And these are all here designed to ensure that you meet your compliance obligations under the Child Safe Standards. It's also important to know that you need to respond to incidents, disclosure, and suspicions of child abuse. The agency's board of directors must ensure that there are 4 critical actions that are taken for the agency when responding to incidents, disclosures, and suspicions of child abuse. This includes responding to an emergency, reporting to authorities, contacting parents or carers, and also providing support, essentially following this slide here. You can also find more information about this in your policy document. The information sharing is also located in the Gemba Docs part of this dashboard, and you have access to a number of policies covering privacy and information sharing, records management, and child and family violence information sharing schemes policy. And these are all found within your Gemba Docs. There are a number of important things to remember. Child safety at our agency is in everyone's responsibility. The agency's board of directors should inform agency leadership if you have immediately witnessed any child safety incident, if you identify any child safety risk that is not currently being addressed or appropriately managed, and if you have any suggestions for how your agency can improve your the child safety within your agency, including wellbeing policies, procedures, and practices. This is about keeping children safe. If you do have any questions regarding this session, then you can contact our law firm directly, and the numbers were listed on this slide. Kaizen Synergy can support your agency in providing ongoing support if there are any issues. You can also contact your CEO directly, specifically on issues that you have with or questions that you have in regards to this particular training session. Thank you for attending this Board of Directors training session. Bye for now, and we'll see you next time.